The wacky world of Multimedia J.
Something. Well, this is as far as I got last night. Last night I had to cut it short early because I actually wanted to crunch a video. This go round, we are going to keep going until this toad is full, and if it's too late to crunch the video, we'll crunch it in the morning. Maybe get up early or something like that. If I get up at my normal work time, then I'll have a couple hours to actually crunch and start the upload before the errand run. That should be interesting. Nonetheless, this stuff is not going to sift itself. Let's continue where we left off. Same setup as before, big bin for the stuff that's getting tossed, little bin for the stuff that might stick around for a while. Well, here's an Audigy drive from the Sound Blaster Audigy I had back in college, a bygone era for computer sound cards, back when computer sound cards weren't doing real-time encoding to an AV receiver, and people didn't have as much of a problem with a noisy computer environment being a jack of all trades for doing home studio type stuff. This was the way these panels in the front looked for years, actually. There was the Live drive, this was the Audigy drive, the early X-Fis had this too. Hey look, a variant of Firewire, SB1394, proprietary stuff, and even an infrared for remote control. Having a computer with a remote was a real wild card situation back in college, let me tell you. But yeah, you use your computer as a guitar amp, and you could put quarter-inch jacks and everything in there. However, everything that does this nowadays is external, because computers are just plain too noisy for this type of product to ever work ever again. I mean, this thing's so old it is rusting. Either way, this thing has no future. It's long past the end of life for creative drivers anyways. First junked item of the night. Case Logic. Yeah, that's right, kids. Back in the dark ages before iPods were invented, this is what your music stuff would go into. It even had a little thing in the bottom to put the power cord in if you were going to plug it into the wall. So basically, it looked like a little purse, actually, or a camera bag or something along those lines. Your CD player would go in the top, your CDs would go in the bottom. Simple enough. So, I guess you could use these as a camera bag if you really tried, but this is the rattier one. I have a far better one from Sony that I got as a free promo back in the day. So this piece of junk is getting thrown out after probably 20 years. Right. This is the better one that I'll be keeping for now. Sony Let Your Mind Play. It even is still shiny and stuff. So yeah, this one even has a magnetic button on the top. But yep, your portable CD player went in here, you put a couple of CDs in here, and you wondered why your CDs kept getting scratched up because you were actually listening to real CDs when you were out and about. MP3 CD was leaps and bounds ahead of this technology. And MP3 itself was leaps and bounds ahead of that. So this one is a keeper because I can probably find some use for it as like a camera carrying case or something along those lines. I just wouldn't even dream of putting a CD player in this thing again unless I wanted to get all retro. I do know some people who miss the 90s. Yeah, let's put that with the special stuff. We'll deal with that later. Oh, look what we have here! The Samsung SMX. I thought I got rid of this thing when I left the old place. Obviously, I didn't. This was the camera that ran this channel roughly around 2013 or so. When you, 2012, 2013, when you watch some of those older videos and the sound's all screwed up compared to what these handy cams can do, that's this old thing. This was a nerd camera back in its day. It drew so little power that you could actually charge this thing off of USB. But then again, the Handycams can do that too, so the Handycams have since caught up. So yeah, anyways, this is the one that fell into the soup, and the remnants of the soup is still all over the lens. This was a to-do fixer-upper project for me for the longest time, but it's just not worth it. My old standard def cam completely supersedes this thing without having to take the thing apart and try and clean it up from the inside out. It still works if we charge the battery back up, but there's just no point in fixing this thing. My old standard def camera still works A-OK, and I can just stick with all handycams from here on out. Heck, they even share batteries between models. So, sadly, this one's getting junked. Microsoft Natural Keyboard. Still works. Or at least it would if the cord hadn't gotten too yanked. What a waste. They still sell those things new though, so it's more worth it for me to just get a similar, newer model nowadays. Although I used to save that for long typing sessions. I think a Microsoft Sculpt Wireless could do the same thing. The one kind of cable that I will be definitely saying goodbye to. MIDI DIN cables. This is what you used to use for MIDI keyboards back in the day. I no longer have a sound card that accepts DIN connections, and there's USB hookups for MIDI keyboards nowadays that I can use instead of some fancy setup with this and an overpriced professional grade or whatever sound card. So all the DIN cables are done. Oh, look! A floppy disk! And not just a floppy disk. Ooh, doubles as a fan. Okay, I'm keeping it. Nah, just kidding. A 5 1/4 from the Apple IIs back in middle school. That was 20 years ago for me, at least. Oh yeah, AW Data. That would be for AppleWorks. Even had a Fuji sleeve and another disc that was getting taped together, keep it from falling apart. However, if you had a floppy disk back in the day, you did everything you could because this is all you could store your data on. There was no flash memory or anything like that, but you did everything you could to make these things last, as I did. Yeah, and anyways, unfortunately, towards the end of floppy disks' useful life, the 3.5s even kind of became synonymous with your presentations not working. I was using a zip drive at the time, which was basically floppy disk plus, but it was more reliable. Floppy disks, even as recently as when I was in college, were synonymous with they worked one day and not the next. Saw more than a few presentations ruined because of these things. So, goodbye, floppy disk. The shelf life of those things is about 5 years anyway, so I don't think the magnetic stuff still really does much anymore. In 2005-ish, I bought a thing of 50 envelopes. I have exactly 2 left. Maybe I should be a cheap ass and, well, no, let's consolidate. Put these in with the other envelopes and throw this out. At least it's environmentally friendly. A DSL filter. If you live somewhere where you still need these things, either you're way out in the woods, or all your ISPs are cheap asses that don't want to upgrade their equipment. Oh, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the dumbest things to ever get from Radio Shack back in the day, an inline volume control. If you had a cheap-ass portable CD player, or cassette player even, where the volume knob was completely shot, you can get one of these. And pretend you didn't have a piece of crap. Well, anyways, I think I originally got this for that white Westinghouse cassette player that I used to have, where the volume knob died in less than 6 months. So you had to get one of these, and you had to have this thing hanging between, your music and your earphones too. Yeah, it's junk. I have zero use for it. Toss it. Doesn't work either. I already tried. Radio Shack. I think this is a 16-foot mini plug extension cable for those setups I had back in college where I had mini plug wire going all around the dorm room. I think I might still have a use for this though, so I'll keep it, even though it looks terrible. It's definitely showing its age. Most certainly old and gray. Actually old, gray, and discolored. In a way, worse than us when we get old and gray as human beings. On second thought, all the lousy 22-ish gauge or whatever this is speaker wire can go in this bag with the remaining wire from the home theater set that I never used. I'll put that in with the Logitechs if I go to get rid of them, so there can at least be something for the next owner to start with. Although I'm sure if they're smart, they'll already have one of these lying around they can just get some new wire from. Right. Just for the sake of convenience. Ooh, another mini cable, but this one's special because it's a 3 mini something or another. This is the final piece of what I need for the Logitechs, whereas Klipsch had 3 cables that you could lose. Logitech at least had the foresight to put them all together in one combined cable for front left, front right, left, rear right, and center LFE. So yeah, this was actually the smarter move. Versus Klipsch having 3 separate mini cables that always seem to go missing when you needed them the most. This will be the final thing that I add to the Logitechs in order to box them up and bring them down to the computer shop afterwards. My one and only FireWire cable, sold separately back in the day. Probably overpaid for this, probably bought it in a retail store, but it made early YouTubing on that DV tape camcorder a heck of a lot easier. Computers controlling a rewind and fast forward mechanism on a tape cassette thingy, or DV. It's kind of like VHS++. Either way, long obsolete. What do when you have a graphics card with something that looks like an S-video slot in the middle, but you want to have easy access to component video? You simply make your S-video into some proprietary something or another and have one of these dongles hanging out the back. Long obsolete. Again. Laptop cooler. Really awesome too. Had a nice big fan and everything. Never really use it too much though, because you can't put it on like a mattress or anything for the bed because you need to have a hard surface underneath. This would be amazing for the upload station if I could only find the proprietary cable that you plug in to this USB here. I have to find a double-edged USB cable in order to keep using this thing. We'll set this one aside with the specials for now. I do believe that's what this drawer was for, that I didn't use for the cable. Right, we'll see if it turns up. I know, one of these days I'll fix the Sansa and get it back to working again. Well, I don't even listen to the new MP3 player, much less getting the time to fix this old thing with its proprietary iPod-style connector that's not true USB. It had a good run. Likewise with the remote control. It was cool in the early 2000s when you had a computer with a remote control. That kind of foreshadowed the kind of cross between computers and televisions that we have today with home theater PCs and HTPC setups. Obsolete. TP-Link, Powerline, Internet Kit, something or another. Waste of money. This thing kept randomly disconnecting. The monoprice ones, which actually cost the same amount for faster maximum speeds, have been working flawlessly since day one. Sorry, TP-Link. Maybe one of these days I'll get to try a product of yours that actually works. Oh look, this is either the power cord to the Samsung monitor or the Samsung TV. Still new from when I got one of those two years and years ago. Oops. Then there's the Silverstone dust screen things that used to go on the side of Tuxedo. Side venting is not really a good thing anymore, so I don't know if I'll ever have any use for these ever again. Monolith is going to vent in the front and the back. That's what the heat sinks are designed for these days, so they're iffy. They hang by the skin of their teeth. Wait, they don't have any teeth. Doo-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. Hey, look, a USB hub. One problem. This is a USB 1.1 hub. I wonder if I'm keeping it or not. Right. Time to give this thing a proper send-off. This is the LeadTech remote from my TV card when I was in college. This is what I used to watch Tech TV on. Flip through the channels, adjust the volume. It worked like a TV remote, except it was for a computer. Really great for only having one big screen to bring out to the dorms and back every semester. I eventually got rid of the one TV that a friend of mine who was graduating gave to me and just had everything go through the computer. Worked A-OK over the college cable. Wouldn't work nowadays because of the analog to digital switchover, but well. These cables are automatic saves because they're the cables that go to the Klipsch ProMedia 4.1s that have mini jacks on the back. I'm wondering if I could wire something up with a mini plug kit on some of that 16 gauge over there and finally throw these things out. Until then, they're saved. For now. My final old-fashioned ADSL modem from the old place. Not going to work here because it's VDSL and fiber here. Showed this to the technician when I came out here. He got a good laugh out of it and was like, throw that thing out when you're done using it as a paperweight. Okay. Here's one of the saddest things to come out of this whole mess. Here's a DIN cable, Radio Shack, therefore we know it was overpriced, at least a little bit. Still in its original tie thing from when I bought it new. This thing never was hooked up to anything. It's useless. Waste. Not exactly technical, but it's technical-ish. My one and only CPU aluminum funnel from when I basically tried putting a bigger fan on top of the cooler for the Athlon 2000 in the Silver Bullet instead of just getting a better freaking cooler. It took a 60mm fan on the bottom, and this brought it up to I think 80 or so. So yeah, just a tad bit, well, the problem was the 80mm fans to begin with and the processor that ran hot. Regardless, this thing's days are long over. That's been scrapped for quite some time. And that's that for the discrete stuff in the big box. We're like 1/3 full. Now, the next part is going to be the hard part. It's going to be the spaghetti mess of all the cables that are all together and stuff like that. Now I have to unhook stuff in order for this stuff to continue. Where to begin with this? Well, I guess the great sift is now the great untangling. Let's begin. My old SBC phone from the old place probably still works perfectly. It just looks like complete crap because it's yellowing. Again, with the light plastics yellowing after X amount of years. If this was black, it would just be an off black by now. But we got yellowing going on. It looks hideous. There's AT&T phones out there that can replace this for like $20 a pop, and I have one too many. Obvious where this is going. Ring, 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 banana phone. Yeah. This thing actually still works. Not only does it still work, Radio Shack. I really don't know what to do with this thing. I could always get another banana phone if I ever wanted another banana phone, but I already have an extra phone to begin with. So you folks in the comments will decide whether this thing lives or dies. Let's leave it over there. Oh look, it's my soldering iron. Must have thrown it in with the mess when I moved. Yeah, well, it's already home. It belongs in the project area, so we'll keep using this until there's either leakage to the power line or something short so the heating element goes there. It's back where it belongs. Let's get the plug out of the way so it don't look so unsightly. 3-prong power cables are a no-brainer with one big exception. The gray ones. These ones are at least 15 years old. Of course, this one was made in USA, so it hasn't discolored yet. However, there's power cords are easy to get. Monoprice and stuff. It's not like they're proprietary or anything. This thing's at least 15 years old, probably from the original HP. If that serial number barcode thingy is some kind of indication, right. It had its day. We'll get new ones if we need more of them. It's not hard to find them. Oh look, it's the Behringer mic, the backup for when the Blue Yeti isn't working, or I just want to have something that sounds more like a concert mic. This is an XM8500. It's basically a poor man's Shure SM58, right down to the model number. Instead of SM58, XM8500. Nice microphone though. Works great for the radio style series when the Blue Yeti died a couple of years ago. My new setup with the Blue Yeti is working a lot better though. I would use this more in a circumstance where I needed a microphone that wasn't a separate sound device. Maybe I could use it for streaming or something. Actually no, the Yeti can... Well, we'll figure that out sometime later on. We're going back at least 15 years with this one. PS2. And Hewlett-Packard is still spelled out. That's how you know you're going way back with old HP stuff. This is my first mouse ever. For my very first computer ever. No center wheel. No center wheel, no side buttons, no optical mouse either. This thing still has a darn ball in it. And of course, some jackass would always steal the ball out of ball mice. Be like, this isn't working. Right. I was very, very happy when these things were discontinued. Although I'm curious if you could punk your friends with taking one of these to a marbles game or something. How it fares. Kids still play marbles? Whoa, okay. Alright, I'll quit being so dated here. Heck, we weren't even playing marbles when I was a kid. It was Pogs. Anywho, yeah, so this thing unfortunately was a step down from the mice I had already become accustomed to using in school before I got my first computer. It's yellowing a bit from old age, the cord's yellow and things like that, and we got this, but the big thing is I'd already used some Microsoft mice that had the wheel in the middle. So to not have a wheel, that bothered me very, very quickly. Plus the mouse isn't very solidly built. Build quality wasn't exactly there, so this thing actually wound up getting replaced within 2 months of me going off to college. The bundled mice that come with systems nowadays is way better than these ever could be. Cat 5, it says. But look what's on the ends. I wonder why there's no connectivity over this cable. Whatever. With some things, you have to draw a line somewhere. This is the TurboLink switching power supply that came with the Silver Bullets case. See? Supports for Pentium 4, but it was missing, one of the rails was light on amperage, so I kept getting crashes and freezes if I ran games that were too powerful at the time. Now this is a perfectly functional power supply. It could still work to this day. Problem is, no serial ATA or any kind of extra cables for processor power or graphics card power. So just the wiring pin out of these things just makes it obsolete at this point. There's newer designs that can be had for a couple hundred watts for under $100 that basically make holding on to this thing not worth it. Plus, this being from the early 2000s means it could have some capacitor plague eventually if it doesn't already. Capacitor plague was what took down the Silverbullet's original motherboard. This power supply is from the same general time frame as that motherboard. It would be worse if a power supply got capacitor plague than when the Silverbullet got it on the motherboard. Junk it! Okay, we had a thunderstorm blow through with hail and the whole 9 yards as a fast mover that was in and out in under 10 minutes. However, I decided to download the footage that I've recorded so far. It looks like there's going to be a great Sift Part 3, which has me going through the rest of the spaghetti on the floor. So, this is already full enough. I'll bet it'll get kind of heavy anyways. Oh yeah, that's more than heavy enough for me to take out right now, but I want to see if I can fill it with some more cables. So, yeah, there's going to be a part 3. So, anyways, this has been Great Sift Part 2, and we just got that spaghetti to figure out afterwards. And as predicted, we've got roughly 1 tote's worth of stuff to keep. I'll probably finish filling this tote with stuff to keep, and that stuff will be the stuff I get rid of. We'll end up with a smaller tote full of stuff to figure out where it's going to go. Sterilite storage, or otherwise. Till next time, this is Multimedia J, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.